My name is Mia Reynolds. I'm 28 years old. Dressed in a white wedding gown, I stood beside Alex cutting our cake, yet an aching emptiness filled my chest. Not a single member of my family showed up, only friends and my new in-laws were there. As cheers and laughter surrounded us, my phone suddenly started buzzing. Once, twice, then over and over again, impossible to ignore. Confused, I glanced at the screen. Dozens of missed calls, messages pouring in. My heart dropped. I rushed outside, pressed the phone to my ear. Hello? Before I go on, tell me where you're watching from, and don't forget to subscribe if you've ever felt betrayed by your own family. Because yes, the deepest wounds often come from the ones closest to us. To explain why my family chose to skip my wedding entirely, I need to take you back to the very beginning. I am a biomedical technician with a quiet talent for tinkering and solving problems. But if you asked the neighbors about the Reynolds girls, they'd only gush about Chloe, the golden child with the wide smile. The shining blonde hair, the one who could charm a whole room with just a laugh. Was the adopted daughter, the one who came from foster care, the one whose darker curls and mixed ethnic features didn't quite match the family Christmas cards. And even though the Reynolds parents never said it outright, their actions spoke louder than anything. Growing up, I had noticed the pattern early. I bring home a science fair ribbon or a perfect report card, her heart bursting to finally hear, "We're proud of you." But instead, she'd get a distracted nod while her mom asked, "Did you see Chloe's drawing? We're entering it in the county show." Then the living room would fill with relatives applauding Chloe's sketch of a sunflower, while I quietly folded her ribbon into a drawer. It wasn't that Chloe was cruel exactly. She basked in the attention, sure, but she also knew she never had to fight for it. I, on the other hand, learned to celebrate her wins silently, almost guiltily, like her success might somehow inconvenience everyone. Still, I wasn't bitter all the time. I found comfort in the hum of machines, in the glow of her makeshift garage lab where she'd pieced together medical device prototypes from scraps I collected. It wasn't glamorous, and no one in the family even knew about it. But in that space, I felt like herself, smart, capable, worthy. I never told them about the nights I stayed up sketching designs that could make real differences for people with mobility issues. Why bother? They already decided I was unambitious. Just a girl with a steady paycheck, but no spark compared to Chloe's artsy big dreams. Things shifted when I met Alex Turner. He wasn't flashy, just a solid, grounded engineer with a quick smile and a way of listening that made I feel like her words actually landed somewhere. His family welcomed her instantly. No raised eyebrows, no whispered comments about her past. With them, I could exhale. So when Alex got down on one knee after 3 years together, I said yes, with a confidence I never thought she'd feel. But then everything changed so fast. The engagement news didn't set off fireworks in the Reynolds household the way I secretly hoped. I announced it over dinner, sliding the ring into view, her cheeks glowing with excitement. Her parents offered polite smiles. That's nice, honey," before pivoting to Chloe's upcoming art show. Chloe clapped her hands and chirped, "That's great, sis. Oh my gosh, you guys have to come to my new exhibit. It's on the same weekend. Can you believe it?" I sat there, her hand still on the table, her diamond sparkling in the dim light, and realized her moment had already been hijacked. Again. What she didn't expect was the letter. A plain white envelope tucked in with the bills one Thursday night, the return address stamped from the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. Her hands shook as she opened it, her breath catching when she saw the words, "Patent approval granted." All those nights in the garage, the endless trial and error, the doubts suddenly, they weren't just experiments anymore. They were real. I pressed the letter to her chest, a grin stretching across her face. But then, just as quickly, I folded it back up and slid it into her desk drawer. Hidden away like another secret trophy, no one in her family would bother to notice. That night, lying in bed next to Alex, I confessed, sometimes I feel invisible to them. Like I'm always trying to earn a place that's already reserved for Chloe. Alex took her hand and said gently, "You don't need to earn anything. You already matter. To me. To everyone who really sees you." His words wrapped around her like a blanket. but she still felt the sting of her parents' lukewarm smiles. So she decided to try something new: therapy. At first, it felt awkward, sitting across from a stranger and digging into the old hurts she'd buried for years. But as the sessions went on, I started recognizing patterns: how her parents' favoritism wasn't her fault, how Chloe's shine didn't erase her own worth. I learned phrases like radical acceptance, though she wasn't sure she fully believed in them yet. Still, each week I left the office a little lighter, like I was piecing together a version of herself that wasn't defined by neglect. And yet, the family dynamics didn't change overnight. Every phone call still carried a hint of dismissal. Every dinner turned into a Chloe highlight reel. I smiled, nodded, and kept her secrets close: the engagement joy, the hidden patent, the fragile hope that maybe one day I'd be more than just the overlooked daughter. Deep down, though, I felt the ground shifting beneath her. Something was coming. In the weeks after the engagement, Mia tried to picture a cozy little wedding, nothing extravagant, just heartfelt. She dreamed of holding it at the old community hall in the center of town, the kind of place where generations had said their vows before. In her heart, she still hoped her parents and Chloe would finally show up for her in a real way this time. She sent them invites to the cake tasting, the dress fitting, even suggested they help decorate the hall to make it more personal. But time after time, the answers were the same. "Oh, sorry, honey. That's the same day as Chloe's art preview." Or, "We're helping your sister with her big show." Every excuse carried the same sting. And each time, Mia forced a smile, swallowed the pain, and pretended it didn't cut as deep as it did. The truth was, it did. She remembered the cake tasting most vividly. That should have been one of those sweet memories with family gathered around, laughing, deciding between flavors. Instead, in the warm bakery filled with the smell of buttercream, it was just Alex and Taylor, her best friend, by her side. Alex was his usual supportive self, and Taylor tried to cheer her up. "Hey, at least you've got us. And honestly, this lemon filling? Incredible." Mia laughed, but a part of her still ached for her parents to be there, just to hear something simple like, "Pick whatever you want, sweetie. We'll love it no matter what." And then came the bridal shower. If there was ever a day where family was supposed to show up, it was that one. But her parents and Chloe, nowhere to be seen. Instead, they'd gone to Chloe's gallery opening and sent Mia a short text. "Sorry, honey. You understand, right?" That night, surrounded by balloons and laughter, Mia still felt the sharp absence. Taylor hugged her tight and whispered, "It's okay. You've got me. And more importantly, you've got Alex." Alex became her anchor through all of it. He didn't try to dismiss her pain with empty lines like, "Don't think about it too much." He just listened, nodded, and held her hand when words weren't enough. His family wrapped her in love too. His mom asked her about every little detail of the wedding, and his dad even offered to help fix up parts of the old hall to make it more special. With them, Mia felt something she'd craved her whole life: to truly belong. Meanwhile, Mia kept pouring herself into her job and the secret inventions she never told her family about. She didn't brag, didn't post about it online, but quietly, she had won a major grant to fund her medical device. When she saw the confirmation email, her eyes filled with tears, not because of the money, but because someone finally believed in her work. Instead of shouting it from the rooftops, though, she just smiled to herself, closed the laptop, and let it become one more private victory, like a flame burning steady inside, feeding her strength. Was she sad? Of course she was. There were nights she lay awake in the dark, whispering to herself, "Maybe I really am the lesser daughter. Maybe they're right. Maybe I'll never be special enough for them." But then she'd remember what her therapist told her. Sometimes accepting that you may never get the love you want from certain people is the first step toward being free. Slowly, Mia started practicing that radical acceptance, lowering her expectations of her family, not because she was giving up, but because she wanted to save her energy for people who truly deserved it. The pain didn't vanish, but it softened, and in its place, a quiet strength began to grow. Still, the digs and jokes kept coming. At the rare dinners they did attend, her parents would chuckle and say things like, "Our adopted daughter, always so humble, never chasing the big things." Chloe would laugh, "Yeah." Mia's just low-key like that. No ambition, but sweet. Mia would sip her water, smile faintly, and let them think what they wanted. On the surface, she stayed calm. But inside, she was transforming that hurt into something solid, something even Chloe couldn't predict. Then, one night, as she was walking past the living room to grab some paperwork, Mia overheard Chloe on the phone with a friend. Her voice was, "And then came the bridal shower." If there was ever a day where family was supposed to show up, it was that one. But her parents and Chloe, nowhere to be seen. Instead, they'd gone to Chloe's gallery opening and sent Mia a short text. "Sorry, honey, you understand, right?" That night, surrounded by balloons and laughter, Mia still felt the sharp absence. Taylor hugged her tight and whispered, "It's okay. You've got me. And more importantly, you've got Alex." Alex became her anchor through all of it. He didn't try to dismiss her pain with empty lines like, "Don't think about it too much." He just listened, nodded, and held her hand when words weren't enough. His family wrapped her in love too. His mom asked her about every little detail of the wedding, and his dad even offered to help fix up parts of the old hall to make it more special. With them, Mia felt something she'd craved her whole life, to truly belong. Meanwhile, Mia kept pouring herself into her job and the secret inventions she never told her family about. She didn't brag, didn't post about it online, but quietly, she had won a major grant to fund her medical device. When she saw the confirmation email, her eyes filled with tears, not because of the money, but because someone finally believed in her work. Instead of shouting it from the rooftops, though, she just smiled to herself, closed the laptop, and let it become one more private victory, like a flame burning steady inside, feeding her strength. Was she sad? Of course she was. There were nights she lay awake in the dark, whispering to herself, "Maybe I really am the lesser daughter. Maybe they're right. Maybe I'll never be special enough for them." But then she'd remember what her therapist told her. Sometimes accepting that you may never get the love you want from certain people is the first step toward being free. Slowly, Mia started practicing that radical acceptance, lowering her expectations of her family, not because she was giving up, but because she wanted to save her energy for people who truly deserved it. The pain didn't vanish, but it softened, and in its place, a quiet strength began to grow. Still, the digs and jokes kept coming. At the rare dinners they did attend, her parents would chuckle and say things like, "Our adopted daughter, always so humble, never chasing the big things." Chloe would laugh, "Yeah, Mia's just low-key like that. No ambition, but sweet." Mia would sip her water, smile faintly, and let them think what they wanted. On the surface, she stayed calm. But inside, she was transforming that hurt into something solid, something even Chloe couldn't predict. Then, one night, as she was walking past the living room to grab some paperwork, Mia overheard Chloe on the phone with a friend. Her voice was hushed, but every word landed sharp. "I'm planning something that'll make sure her wedding isn't the center of attention." Mia froze. Her grip on the papers tightened, her heart pounding in her chest. She stood there for a few seconds, silent, then forced herself to walk away as if she hadn't heard. But inside, questions flooded her mind. What is she planning? What is she going to do on my wedding day? What Mia didn't know was that from that moment on, the storm was already rolling in. The morning of Mia's wedding should have been full of butterflies and excitement, and it was at least partly. But under the lace veil and soft blush on her cheeks, Mia carried a heavy truth. Her parents still hadn't confirmed they were coming. She tried to brush it off, telling herself maybe they were just late responders. Maybe they'd show up and surprise her at the hall. But deep down, she already knew. Chloe's big art exhibit had been scheduled for the exact same day. The timing wasn't some coincidence, it was calculated, and Mia could feel it in her bones. Still, she pressed forward. The historic hall was glowing that morning, sunlight streaming through tall windows onto rows of white chairs. Alex stood at the front, steady and smiling, his family bustling around with small touches, his mom pinning flowers, his dad adjusting the sound system. Taylor came rushing in, breathless but cheerful, arms full of last-minute decorations. And in that moment, Mia made a choice. She wasn't going to let her parents' absence erase the joy of what this day truly was, a promise between her and Alex. So, when the music started and she walked down the aisle, her heart cracked but also swelled. Every step reminded her she was choosing her own life now, one built on love, not conditional approval. Alex's eyes shimmered as he watched her, and by the time they exchanged vows, Mia felt a strength she'd never known. Yes, her parents' seats were empty, but she wasn't alone. Not anymore. The reception began with laughter, clinking glasses, and the smell of vanilla cake filling the room. For the first time in forever, Mia actually let herself relax. She held Alex's hand, leaned against him, and thought, maybe this is enough. Maybe I don't need them to feel whole. But then, during the cake cutting, right when everyone had gathered around, cheering them on, Mia's phone buzzed. Once, twice, then over and over again, until the sound was impossible to ignore. Confused, she glanced at the screen. Dozens of missed calls, messages stacking up. Her stomach flipped. She stepped aside to answer one, her voice low. Hello? On the other end, it wasn't her parents, it was Chloe's fiancé. His voice was frantic, almost cracking. Mia, you need to know the truth. I can't keep covering for her anymore. Mia's blood ran cold. He explained everything in a rush, how Chloe had intercepted texts, how she had sent fake messages to their parents claiming Mia didn't want them there, how she'd deleted Mia's actual reminders about the wedding. Chloe had even convinced Taylor to choose her gallery over the bridal shower by making it sound like Mia didn't care if she came. Every manipulative twist came pouring out. All of it rooted in Chloe's deep jealousy, the way Mia had built a life of quiet strength, a love that wasn't based on applause, and talents Chloe could never compete with. Mia's knees went weak. She steadied herself against the wall, trying to absorb the weight of it. All these years, she thought her parents simply didn't care, and maybe that was partly true. But this was Chloe deliberately rewriting the narrative, sabotaging her, feeding off favoritism. Then, as if fate wanted to rip the whole mask off at once, Mia's phone buzzed again, this time with a news alert. Her heart stopped when she saw the headline, "Local biomedical technician's invention purchased in multi-million-dollar deal." Her patent, her device, the thing she'd hidden in silence for so long, it was now public, right there, in black and white. And the timing couldn't have been more surreal. Taylor rushed over, sensing something was wrong. Mia showed her the phone, her voice trembling. She lied to them. She lied to everyone. And now this. Taylor's jaw dropped. For once, there were no jokes, no quick comforts, just raw shock. Words spread fast. By the time Mia's parents called, their voices were shaky, confused, defensive. They demanded explanations, claimed they thought Mia had pushed them away, that Chloe had told them she didn't want the family involved. And for the first time, Mia didn't fold under the weight of their disappointment. She stood taller, her voice steady. "Number, I've been here all along. You chose to believe what was easiest, that Chloe was perfect and I was disposable. You let her cruelty grow because it fit your picture of me, and I'm done carrying that." The silence on the other end was deafening. Then came stumbling apologies, half-formed excuses, but Mia didn't let them rewrite it, not this time. She had endured enough years of being overshadowed, dismissed, underestimated. Tonight, the truth was out. Chloe's scheme had imploded, the community buzzing with disbelief, her art show collapsing under scandal. And Mia? She was finally stepping into the light on her own terms. When she walked back into the reception, Alex's family waiting with open arms, Mia felt something inside shift. For the first time, she wasn't just surviving the prejudice. She was breaking free from it. And she knew, deep in her heart, life was never going to be the same. In the days following the wedding, echoes of Chloe's unraveling ricocheted through Willow Creek like a storm. The small town thrived on whispers, and this scandal, betrayal, deception, and stolen recognition was too seismic to stay quiet. Neighbors spoke in hushed tones at the cafe, teachers murmured about it in the grocery aisles, and Mia's name, once brushed aside as unremarkable, now carried weight. Not scandalous weight, no, it was the weight of vindication. Chloe, stripped of her curated image, became the talk of disdain. The gallery pulled her exhibition early, investors withdrew, and even her fiancé, unable to reconcile with her cruelty, ended their engagement. The very stage she fought to dominate collapsed beneath her. And yet, while part of Mia wanted to savor the poetic justice, another part only felt weary. The fight had drained her. This wasn't triumph in the way she once imagined. It was survival, messy and raw. Her parents, caught in the crossfire of their favoritism exposed, tried to mend what they could. They visited her new apartment one afternoon, flowers trembling in her mother's hands, guilt etched into her father's face. Their apologies stumbled, layered with excuses. "We didn't know. We only wanted the best for you." Chloe was just easier to believe. Mia listened. Really listened. For the first time, she realized something. She no longer needed their validation. The child in her, who once yearned for their acknowledgement, had grown into a woman who built her own family. The family she chose with Alex. The family that Taylor had stood in as the community that had finally seen her. Forgiveness would not come quickly, maybe not completely, but she no longer ached for what she couldn't change. Meanwhile, Mia's patent, the very invention Chloe had tried to bury, sparked genuine interest. Scientists reached out, publications highlighted her work, and suddenly doors she never thought possible cracked open. But this time, Mia wasn't chasing recognition to prove something to her parents or to overshadow Chloe. She was pursuing it because it mattered to her, to the field, to the lives her device could touch. On a crisp autumn evening, weeks after the chaos, Mia stood with Alex on their small balcony, the golden lights spilling across the horizon. She held his hand, steady and warm, and breathed in the cool air. "For so long, I thought I had to win their love," she whispered. "But maybe the real victory is realizing I don't need to anymore." Alex squeezed her hand gently. "Exactly. You've already built something stronger, something they can't take away." Mia smiled, a soft, steady smile. The girl who had once been overshadowed was gone. What remained was a woman who had endured the fracture, stepped into the wreckage, and built a foundation no one could topple. And though whispers in Willow Creek would fade, the truth remained. Mia had redefined herself, not as the forgotten daughter, not as the shadow of her sister, but as someone whole, resilient, and entirely her own. Months passed, and life in Willow Creek slowly began to settle after the chaos. The gossip faded into the background, replaced by new dramas in town, but the lessons from everything that happened stayed etched deep inside Mia. What she didn't expect was how those scars, once painful, began to shape her into someone she almost didn't recognize in the best way. Her invention, once buried under lies, had finally found the recognition it deserved. She was invited to conferences, asked to collaborate, and even interviewed on local television. People who used to dismiss her now leaned in with genuine curiosity. But the funny thing was, she didn't crave their approval the way she once did. She appreciated it, sure, but it no longer defined her. Her sense of worth had shifted inward. Alex was there through it all, steady as a rock. The late nights of planning, the nerves before big presentations, the quiet moments when doubts crept back in, he was her anchor. Taylor, too, remained a constant, the kind of friend who didn't just cheer from the sidelines but reminded her, often with tough love, to keep her feet on the ground and not let new attention twist her into something she wasn't in. And then there were her parents. Their relationship was complicated. They showed up at some of her talks, sat in the back row, clapped too hard, tried to bridge the gap with awkward dinners. Mia didn't push them away, but she didn't let them hold the same power over her anymore. She accepted them for who they were, flawed, blind in their favoritism, but still her parents. Forgiveness, she realized, wasn't about pretending nothing had happened. It was about releasing herself from the weight of waiting for what they could never fully give. The real turning point came on a crisp winter evening. Mia had been invited to speak at a charity event, not about the science itself, but about resilience, how to stand tall when the world insists on cutting you down. She stood at the podium, lights warm on her face, and for the first time, she didn't feel like she had to prove anything. I used to think being underestimated was the worst thing, she told the crowd, her voice steady. That being overlooked meant I was less than. But what I didn't realize was that those years of being ignored, doubted, even stolen from, they forged me. They taught me to fight, but also to forgive. To measure myself not by applause or approval, but by the work I do and the people I choose to walk beside me. The audience was quiet, listening closely. She continued, I can't rewrite the past. I can't erase the betrayal, but I can decide who I am moving forward. And I choose to be someone who builds, who lifts others, who refuses to let bitterness define my story. When she stepped off the stage, Alex caught her hand, his eyes shining with pride. Taylor hugged her so tight, it knocked the breath out of her. Even her parents, standing a little awkwardly to the side, wore expressions that were softer than she'd seen in years. That night, Mia realized something powerful. Survival was no longer enough. She had grown into someone who could carry her scars as part of her strength, not her shame. She wasn't the forgotten daughter anymore. She wasn't her sister's shadow. She was her own story, messy, hard-won, but beautifully, undeniably hers. And maybe, just maybe, that was the truest form of redemption. At the heart of this story lies a reminder that dignity and self-worth are never gifts from others. They are truths we must claim for ourselves. Life often tests us with prejudice, betrayal, or silence from those we thought would stand beside us. But as the saying goes, true gold fears no fire. Sometimes, the pain of being underestimated or overlooked becomes the very fire that shapes our resilience and strength. When we refuse to let bitterness define us, when we choose to break toxic silence and stand in our truth, we not only reclaim our own voice, we also inspire others to see what is possible. It's not about erasing hardship, but about finding meaning in it, remembering that you reap what you sow, and that fairness, though often delayed, can be nurtured through courage and integrity. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Have you ever faced a moment where standing up for yourself changed everything? Share your story in the comments, like this video if it spoke to you, and subscribe so you don't miss more powerful, thoughtful stories like this. Wishing you peace, strength, and encouragement on your own journey, because even after the darkest storm, the sun always rises.